begin our series this evening with Dr. We are recording, as you notice, Dr. David Coker's presentation on moving forward in ICEC, how and why we grow our professional work networks. Welcome, everybody.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and begin. I'll give an introduction. Let me get this set up. So first, I'm not big on PowerPoints, and I'm not going to read to anyone, so don't worry about that. Okay, I like to talk, but I'm not going to talk for an hour because I've got a homework assignment coming up, and so get prepared. It's a quiz, and I hope everyone will participate. And my objective today is twofold. I have grown up in Danville, Illinois, my whole life, and so I know the history very intimately, and I think it'll shed some light on ICEC and possibly give some other people insight too. I know some of you have been around since before the for special ed federal law, and some of you have been around well after, so hopefully it'll give you some insight in there. So we're going to talk about that first as objective number one. Objective number two, I'm going to talk about networking, and I'm going to give a broad perspective of that, and I hope it'll help people out. Please interrupt me if you have a question. Say, excuse me, I have a question or a comment, because you do not have to sit there. So please do. So I'm not going to be offended, okay? And I welcome that. So if you want to know something more or you've got a question, I'll see if I can answer it, okay? Everyone doing okay? Everyone can hear okay, I hope? I'm pleased to see so many people, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and begin. But like I said, you're not going to just sit here and listen to me forever, and you certainly can't sit here and read the slides, because I just have bare bones information to get us rolling, okay? So I'm going to start with the history of ICEC, and it might be in the paperwork, it might not be. My family came to Danville in 1834, had the first house between Danville and Chicago. Used to counties would write histories in the 1800s, early 1900s of families. And so that's how I know this. Josiah Crawford came from Ohio, and so my family's been here ever since. And in 1924, the $1 million high school was built in Danville. Big news. That cost more than Memorial Stadium did. So it was broadcast all over the United States. One of those men would become principal in 1935, well over a decade after the founding of CEC. And that man is Russell Duffin. He's the principal now. And then in 1948, he moves into a director of special education role. So let's put this into historical context, why we want to know this ICEC history, and it's rooted in networking. Now, special education has, we know Elizabeth Farrell, we know Illinois State is getting into the game in the 1940s and 1950s, but Russell Duffin in downstate Illinois, unconnected from any university, starts a special education program in 1948 in Danville, Illinois. Some of this is going on in larger communities. It's not until 1958 that the first special ed cooperative is even formed in Illinois. So he's a trailblazer, and we know some other locations like Champaign are already getting involved in this. But I want to give a little bit more history about Danville just to show us where we are in history of before ICEC and before federal law. So, if you're not connected to a major university, good chance you've never had any coursework on this. You're going it alone. So in 1948 in Danville, courses were started for children with needs. At the time, of course, it would be, educationally handicapped. Learning disabilities do not exist yet. That's still not until 1963 with Samuel Kirk at the University of Illinois. And you go to their College of Education, you can see it listed there. So he wants to start this, but it's a rocky start. Training is non-existent. I give you a part of the history that's going on now, and it's in the history books, but this is all personal history from the Danville community that I know and friends and family to show you how we have changed. In 1948, if the child had severe problems, physical or mental handicaps at the time, and it's handicaps at the time, that's the language, not disability yet. often parents were told never even to hold the child. You might get connected to the child. You just need to send that child to some type of care. Often, such as in the Danville area, we have Aaron from Bismarck, just north of here in Iroquois County. Instead of holding the child, they were often residential settings where older couples would take in these children and take care of them and raise them as your own. So if you had a child with Down syndrome, don't ever hold that child. Don't take it home. It's too much stressful. You don't want to have that burden on your family. That is the message. So Russell Duffin starting to change this. And we know some other places are, but it's all disjointed. You know, the Special Ed Cooperative in 1958 in the Chicago area is not even here yet. And so he's starting this. It's not perfect. He doesn't have people in training, and we'll talk about that. And I'll give you an example. If you have a learning disability, and learning disabilities do exist at the time under another name, you know, Lewis Terman has done research, and other people have, on dysgraphia and dyscalculia, and we can go on in dyslexia and other specific traits, and you know, even with Elizabeth Farrell's history. But not learning disabilities. So, you know, students that have severe problems, but not too severe, will help. But let's say you're on that in-between track. Well, Danville District 118 has as a policy for some time up until the 1960s. If you're by 16 and you cannot make it through the 8th grade, you're going to get, by the time you turn 16, they've got to throw you out. You can be 15, they'll give you that year. But by the time you turn 16, they're going to throw you out. Now, point this out. So, you know, Russell Duffin is one person. He calls up different people in the state, Champaign and others, and he gets the ball rolling with others. And of course, the Illinois State Board of Education helps sponsor this. And Russell Duffin becomes the first president of ICEC in 1950. And it's not ICEC yet. It's not going to be that for about another 9 years, or 8 or 9 years or so. It's a federation. But they wanted to network, and they wanted to get together and have conferences and stuff. So this is the history. And it's not always a pretty history, but that's when we are ahistorical, looking at it from our perspective, what we know. From what they know at the time, they're trailblazers. You know, and many people think it's not worth our time, money, or effort. It's a waste of resources. And the state of Illinois is one of the leaders in the nation at this. And Russell Duffin from Danville, principal and then director of special education, pushes this. He's pushing networking. And so this is our roots. Our roots were that collectively we could be something greater than we are by ourselves. Now, I said it's not pretty. I've got 1975 up there. That's when Danville District 118 integrated. The high schools that have been integrated since the $1 Million High School in 1924. So, you know, there's work to go. And it's a painful history, but, you know, they're going to get there. In 1975, everything's integrated. There's only K through 8 schools at the time. Everyone's neighborhood school, so it starts. But Illinois is a leader here. In 1965, 10 years before the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, Illinois passes special education law, that we have to start offering special education. Now, I want to make sure that people can see this as a history, though. So I've got a little bit more to push after Russell Duffin. So he starts this. We know there's annual conferences. There's often spring conferences. You know, there's no internet. There's phones. Cell phones have existed since the 1940s, but, you know, no one has them until the 1980s, if you're well-to-do. And then everyone does today, of course. But, you know, that's well off in the future. You know, mail a letter by typing it. So this is starting in earnest in 1975, 1977. Danville jumps right on board with financial federal resources. They build a special school for students with severe and profound differences called McKinley. And it was going to be a special school for life skills. Well, that starts in 1977. Almost immediately, though, we know it takes another course. And as soon as the building's done, state law has to align with national law of inclusivity, and a free and appropriate public education cannot be separate. So there's good starts and then false starts. But I think everything is a good start. We're all trying to move in the right direction. Now, got a little bit more history, and And then if anyone has questions, I will, but then I'll go into the real part. But I want to know this history that we're all networking. Well, special education, starts in 75 federally. It says, hey, you're going to do it. Illinois says you're going to do it, but lots of locations haven't done it. They don't have the training. Or if they do have the training, there's not much on it. Learning disabilities is only a little bit over a decade old. So let me just give another instance of how this is trying to grow. Larger schools like Danville, Champaign, Peoria, Bloomington, and Normal in downstate Illinois, and I'm from central Illinois. They have a fairly easier time. Many of those are connected to universities. Even if Danville's not connected to the University of Illinois, it's 30 minutes away. So it does have a connection, and Illinois State, and then we go to Peoria and Bradley, and it's in the Springfield area as well, in Decatur. So I'm going to give another example here of history of how things are trying to change. So when small schools like Kaplan School District, a small school just about 10 miles south of Danville, they were told to start special education in the 1970s too. So a good friend of mine, and all these are personal stories, I know, she was hired to teach the first class. So she took a class in learning disabilities in 1975. She had a special ed degree, but a lot of colleges didn't offer it. It's still in its infancy. So keep this in mind as we go forward when we network and we think of our problems today. And I've got that rowdy group of 3 through 5, 5th grade, or I teach 6th through 8th grade, or high school. I've got 1 through 5. Okay, so Kaplan's got to start this, and they don't have the resources Danville do. So the first classroom is a K through 12 special education class. It's a one-room schoolhouse for students with disabilities. Some of you are old enough to know this. Some of you might be old enough, but you were never in a small school, so you don't know this. So there were actually teachers. Think about this. Anyone that's taught kids or been a principal, been with kids know, oh, that third hour is my worst class, okay? Little Johnny's just, oh my gosh, I can't wait for him to move on next year, okay? Well, for this teacher from kindergarten through 12th grade, she's going to have him for 13 years. I know this woman literally taught the same kid all the way up from the time he or she was 5 years old till they were 18 years of age in one class, and had a couple of assistants. So, we've come a long way. And you want to talk about her networking. She said, she was happy to take the learning disabilities class at the time at a college in the area. I believe it was the University of Illinois. But she said there's still so much theory and so little practice. And I can't imagine doing a one-room schoolhouse. And so it existed up until the 1980s in special education in small communities. So that's the history in the back of ICEC is about an eye to the future. And we've gone from you're not welcome here, don't even hold you, don't even take you home, to you're guaranteed an education. And the ICEC is a network of providers that will provide and support for each other and each other's children. So that's where we are. If there's any questions about this or anyone wants to add anything, you're welcome to do that before I move on. Does anyone want to add anything or any questions? And if I can answer it, I will attempt to do so. Okay, well, like I said, I'm not talking the entire time, so I've got probably about another 10, 15 minutes at the max, and the homework assignment will be up. So you can start preparing for this, okay? And the homework's going to be, how can ICEC and you personally improve networking? So I want you to try to answer that. If you don't have an original answer, that's okay. I ask everyone that participates, and whether it's just to agree, disagree, or hopefully give a new angle. And I work at a juvenile detention center where I'm not a one-room schoolhouse, but I often have grades 5 through 12 in one class. So I'm probably close to that 1970s model, but I have so fewer kids and lots more help. So I'm in a very different situation here. I'm going to talk about networking by talking about a practice that we've done, and PBIS in juvenile detention. So it's going to sound like I'm bragging, but But then when I get to the end, you're going to talk, this is about networking, networking, and networking. And I'm going to tell you specific steps of how I did this, and I hope you can take away. And then I'll tell you another big resource. So 2 years ago, the state of Illinois came down and said every juvenile detention center has to have a new behavioral plan. So I was asked by the director of security, can I start PBIS in juvenile detention? Said, well, I've done PBIS in middle school and high school before. I'm sure we can. It's going to be a 24-hour/7 program, though. Non-educators and educators are going to enforce it, teach it, make it work. Well, I asked people locally, and I got a lot of generalities, but no one really had any idea what to do. I even asked, so here's an important reminder, if you don't know about this, you need to do it. Chad Rummel sometimes emails me, he's the CEC director, if he thinks I'm missing, because he knows I'll be there. And Brooke Mason, who's a great CEC referencer, the CEC discussion boards. It's a free resource on the CEC website. You can ask tons of questions. And I went there and asked a question, but believe it or not, there was no one to have an answer. But this is where I'm going to remind you. Go to CEC discussion and ask an answer. People like me, Heather, I can't think of her last name, in New Orleans, a couple others of us, we monitor that closely. We're on there all the time. We're just there to help, okay? And there's some other past CEC presidents, people there. You'll probably get your questions answered, and I'll give you an example. A woman in Ohio, I don't know her. She wants to know how to do dyslexia screeners for students with low vision and blind in Ohio for first and second graders, a dyslexia screener because they're required. No one can answer that question. Well, people like me and people like Heather in New Orleans, oh, we do care. I've already reached out to the Texas School for Visual Impairment, and I've already reached out to the Illinois School for Visual Impairment, and they're both trying to help me come up with an answer for this person in Ohio. And I'm sure they will. And stuff like that happens all the time. So the CEC discussion is a great resource. It's not the only resource, but it's a great resource. So if you're not on there, you need to go. You've got tons of experts. It's amazing the websites, the information you can get. But that networking didn't work for me. So he sounds like I'm bragging. So I started PBIS, and a year later, the state of Illinois tells all the other juvenile detention centers, you need to go see David Coker. He's got the best PBIS system in the state. In 1 year, Los Angeles County Juvenile Detention, a little bit larger than me, called and asked for me to consult too, and I'm just a year into this. Well, it could be I'm debonair, my hair, my good looks, maybe I'm just so smart, maybe I've got a lot of classwork. Well, it's none of that. I always say my claim to fame is I've taught more students with behavioral and emotional issues than any teacher I ever know. I've taught over 3,000 students because I'm in a short-term facility. But experience is only wisdom if it applies to the problem. None of that experience, and by none, just very little, applied to the wisdom I needed to be successful. And so it wasn't my boyish good looks or charms or my hair. I decided I know how to network. And so this is what we can do to network. The United States Department of Education has free resources where they pay different divisions to assist people. So I contacted Texas Tech University, Brenda Sherman. She said she'd love to help me. But she also put me in touch with people all over the nation in West Virginia. LaDonna, she put me in contact with people in Chicago and all over the nation, Nevada. They all gave me ideas, and they were all willing to help. They Zoomed, emailed me, met with me. So I've got all these people on board immediately. So part of our networking is we have to check our arrogance. We have to become humble. We have to be accepting that there's got to be other pathways. Part of this too, though, is we have to be ready for rapid prototyping. And that means I tried something quickly, we evaluated it, and if it didn't work, we went from there. Now, besides CEC, ICEC is the next resource after the United States Department of Education. And if you're not going for help, if you think your problem's new, it's really just new to you. Almost every problem and issue you face is already out there. Someone can help you work through that problem, such as CEC discussion. But ICEC, the listserv, if there's a problem I see recently, someone in northern Illinois needed assistance. I asked the woman, can I put this out to ICEC? Antoinette Williams, she jumped up, said she'd be happy to help. Okay. I have a friend downstate Illinois. I said, well, we can contact her. She's early childhood. She'll be happy to help us. If she's called me if she's had a question. And so here's another thing about being arrogant and humble and why we need to be humble. I have a friend that was moved from middle school to early childhood. She hasn't dealt with early childhood. She's no longer competent. She no longer knows her way. Well, people like Antoinette and ICEC's ready to jump in and help us. The CEC discussion's ready to help us. I'm going to give a couple more ideas, though, that's worked for me as well, and I think it might surprise you. You can always cold contact people, too. If you can find a name in an email, I cold contact all the time. I had a question about something in MTSS, Hank Brohanen, an Illinois source at Loyola University. I emailed him. He was happy to email me back and assist me. I had questions about the humanization of Black boys in education and the problem of racism. Rhode Island, Roger Williams University, their professor was happy to help me. I knew she published a book. I said, can I talk to you about this? She said she'd be happy to. We can go out to the University of Washington at Department of Education, specific question. Many people are happy to help you if you ask, and all they can do is say no. And I've just had fantastic luck. So I don't want to waste your time, but could you help me out here? And most everyone does. E-Tel Drawer, probably the foremost expert in cognitive biases in forensic science in the world, I had a question. He had a lengthy conversation with me to help me understand cognitive biases. And so I often point out, I've talked to experts across the nation, and they're willing to help. Within the nation, Illinois State Board of Education, they have divisions. Those people are willing to help. They're overwhelmed, understaffed, but they're willing to help. So how did I go from just starting out to being asked to be a consultant? Because I did not go it alone. When I started out in college, I remember going to the Stacks, the big library at the University of Illinois underground, one of the top 3 largest academic libraries in the world. And I remember how overwhelming it was, and I'd just get lost in there. Believe it or not, you can get locked into the library if you don't hear the last bell, and then the police have to let you out. Okay, I know that. And we'd copy articles, but now we have the internet and we have all these contacts. So here's another resource. ICEC leadership will help too. If you have a question, all you have to do is drop an email. So if you have a question in your professional life, if you email me, I will answer, and I can put it in the chat. And people ask, well, I volunteer. So I volunteer for so many organizations all the time, and someone asked me to directly help them with children, I would love to do it. Okay, so if you still can't get an answer, email me. I will try to assist you. And I'll give you one last example. I regularly work with people all over the world I met online. I've never met them in person. They could be on this screen somewhere right now, and if they did not put their name, I wouldn't know who they are. So I've got a good colleague in Heidelberg, Germany. We chat all the time if I've got a question. Brunei, a man in education, I chat all the time. Philippines, at Bukidnon University, I chat all the time if I got a question. National University in Taipei, Taiwan, who just had their first, I got a question I can send there. They'll be happy to help me out. I have some friends in Australia too. I've got a question, they'll be happy to help me out. I built connections. I said, hey, I'll help. Can you help? But it can always be one-sided. There are national and international people just waiting to help. And if you have a question, you can't get an answer, when you network after tonight, ask me. I'm going to leave you with this thought before I hope to get everyone to talk. If you don't know what you're doing or where you're going, reach out and ask people. Discussion boards, emails, you can copy and paste frequently. We can Google stuff. Google Scholar is a great free website, has tons of articles and stuff, but you don't have to go it alone. There are lots of people that are in your position out there to help. So how did I move up so quickly? Because I was humble and I kept asking questions, and I kept saying, well, I'm not sure how to do this, or what do you think about this? And now I'm in a national affinity group for juvenile delinquency as well. And I do go to conferences. Conferences are a great way to meet people. And I'll leave you with that thought. When you go to conferences, the most important aspect of a conference is not that session. It's not that keynote speaker. It is the people you meet and you can count on when you leave, because there are experts all around you. And I'll give this last story. I worked at a middle school struggling with trying to get their reading scores up. So the principal just made up a new plan, like he was the expert, okay? Had a couple of people together, ran it through. I lamented the fact that at the time, he had a person in the school that had taught reading for 25 years at all levels and had even been trained in reading recovery. He never asked her. There was another sixth grade teacher that had a master's in reading and loved reading. Never asked her. I've taught reading for years in special education. Never asked me. So I'm going to give you one last thought. Make sure you're asking the right person. Many people are helpful, but go after the right person, and most anyone will help. And I will open it up to everyone answering. There are tons of people on this Zoom right now that will help, but everyone has some type of help depending on what it is. And when we open ourselves to those possibilities, it's just amazing. I want to know how to do dyslexia screeners. I was told the person in Aurora, Colorado, had the best program in the nation. I cold emailed them. They shared everything they've done. I could have reinvented the wheel. I could have read everywhere, but I had a personal consultant for free because educators like to help, as Russell Duffin started over 75 years ago today. Okay, and with that, I'm got a homework assignment here. How can ICEC improve networking, or do you have a networking need? And I'd like to hear everyone talk. If you can't say where you're from, and you can describe the weather if you want. It's about -5 here, and I'm ready for summer. Okay, Mrs. Crawley, Dr. Crawley, I'm done. I'll turn it back over to you, and then we can see if we can get everyone to answer as well, and I'll certainly stay involved. Okay?
Certainly. Thank you so much, David. Do you want to keep your screen? Do you want to keep your PowerPoint slide up, David, or do you want to?
I'll take it off. So how can ICEC improve networking? If you have other networking ideas, or if you have any needs or concerns, let us know, okay? But let's have a discussion. How can we as an organization improve networking? How can we improve connections? If you have ideas, questions, or even complaints. Okay.
Well, this is Jane Collins. I'd be happy to start. As you were talking, I took a look at the website for ICEC, and I think perhaps starting there might be a good way, because I'm not sure. I think of organizations such as this. So I was hoping to see some professional associations, some connections to other websites, other organizations. And I didn't see any unless I just didn't click on the right link. So that might be something to take a look at. And I know a lot of that is manpower and people and just finding the time to get that kind of stuff done. But I find that very helpful when I'm looking for resources.
So the ICEC, yeah, sorry.
Your
David.
website in itself. So having that be more user-friendly so that people would go, hey, I want to go to that website. I heard they have got some good connections, particularly since you are the representation for CEC in Illinois. So I honestly don't know how you're connected throughout the state. and I just retired 35 years. And I'm now, and I asked that because my new position, I'm a 16-hour training specialist with the University of Illinois Center for Transition to Work. And networking is key for everything that we're doing there, and getting into schools to assist programs develop significant vocational programs for students with significant needs that haven't had the opportunity before. And networking is absolute key. David, do you mind that I call you David, or is it
Go
Doc?
ahead. I'm David. I'm not Dave.
Okay. When you mentioned contacting the right person, sometimes you don't know. You try and try to do outreach. This is my second year, so having Region 3 of the state, it's my job to get out into the field, into programs and schools that haven't had anyone come to them before. And you just don't know where to start. It wasn't until our symposium last year, I have been trying to get further south. So my furthest area would be the Jacksonville area, would be as far as I personally go. One person came up to me, we all introduced ourselves at a conference. So that's another way to network. A person had come up and said that they're from the Jacksonville area. And I said, oh my goodness, I've been trying to get down there, but I haven't had any luck. And she just looked right at me and said, well, you just contacted the wrong person. And since then, I'm working with her. I'm working with Illinois School for the Deaf and possibly another school. So just getting yourself out there and keep knocking on the door and don't give up.
And this is where ICEC can help you tremendously. You can either email me or Dr. Crawley afterwards.
Okay.
We have regions and we have special education teachers all over the state. And so that might be a great resource to put you in contact with teachers all over the state and through our regional directors from the south to the north. So maybe we can be a resource for you as well to help give you those contacts and help you reach teachers all over the state, from small schools to big schools. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely will do that. You know, you get these listings and these names, but it's like, is that the right person? I don't know. And I'm wanting to dig a little, I'm wanting to get to the grassroots, to those people that are really wanting to change it up and do some new things in their buildings.
Excellent, Jane. You're asking interesting and important questions. One of my joys in the last week was a doctoral student at the University of Illinois. She's preparing to do her dissertation research, and she has a particular question about siblings of children with autism that she's doing in her study. And she had, she was trying to get a big net of these children, siblings of children with autism that kind of fitted exactly what she was trying to focus on. And I'm so happy that she, for some reason, connected with me through the contact us link on our website, and in about 2 hours, she had her people. She
That's
had
great.
what she needed. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Because I know who, at Illinois State University, there's that work is going on, and then Easter season Chicago area. So I was able to make that connection. But sometimes it's easy, Jane, sometimes it's not. But if I could know more about exactly what you're looking for, I'm hearing you say transition, and I could share. David, do you have the Council for Exceptional Children website up by any chance? I do. I have mine on here. I wonder, could I share my screen? And yes, I can. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Jane, hop on here. Can you see this? You can, right?
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah, and I don't want to monopolize everyone's time. You've given
I think
me
it's a
enough
good example.
information.
I think it's a good example, Jane, for everybody else.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah, because for example, when you go in here into the website, we're the Illinois unit of the international unit.
Okay.
That's how we're directly connected.
Yes.
But the interest subdivisions, you're going to find that if a transition is what you're looking for, we have an Illinois Division for Career Development and Transition. I'm sure you're a member, are you or not? You
Mhm.
are?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that would be and maybe that's what you mentioned a while ago when you said, like this one right here, you know, and they have their own website. And if you connected with me and had a specific question, I might actually be able to lead you to exactly the right person. But you know, David made it David make it sound easy. You know, networking can be very hard, David, you know. You know, I'm going to stop sharing now, but basically there is like, you talk about 3 floors, right, David, at the University of Illinois. This is completely loaded. You know, like look at any of these things, you know, looking for PD credit. Like there was a teacher out for so many months or something she needed. She can get on here and she can get PD credit on through CEC, you know. So like you really need to do some hard work. You talk about Aaron Gilpin is an archaeology major, actually. It's kind of like digging, right, David? You have to, or Aaron, it's kind of like you go out there with a shovel and you dig around, you know. Sometimes you don't have the right person at the beginning, right? You know, but you keep asking questions. And sometimes when you're talking to a person, maybe they are the ones who are going to lead you to that great insight into the one in Colorado that David was talking about, Aurora, Colorado. You know, you might not find that person the first go around, but keep asking questions. And can you recommend somebody? Sometimes that's a magical question. Sometimes if they can recommend somebody, then you're kind of another road might open up, you know. But it's hard work at times, you know, and it's great when it comes together fast, you know. But that's how we're connected. We're here in Illinois, and we're about 1,500 members of the international unit, we're the Illinois unit of that big international world, you know. And that, go into you can see and that's about us here. If you hop on that website, you will find all kinds of things. And then there's a contact us if you have questions about something here. And they really are, like David said, incredibly helpful people at the very, you know, you're going to find and get to know them. I even, like, now they know me and I may not have met them. I can, oh, good to, and I'm delighted to help is usually the message I get. Truly, if I need to, if I have a question, I often get, I'm delighted to help, and thank you for asking me, and that kind of thing, you know. I see Adelicia.
Yes, hi. I have a couple just comments I think to make. First of all, kind of thinking about the website, I'm also thinking about social media and how easy it is for educators, specifically because, you know, we all know folks are extremely busy in our day-to-day. So I know there's a lot of organizations that utilize social media to really have quick access to questions. The WIDA Educator Exchange, for example, is a great tool that I use a lot, you know, to just network with other folks and follow, you know, learning who people are and following them when they have like some great suggestions or resources and things like that, sharing resources, and, you know, being very active on social media, I think is really helpful. The other thing I was going to say is, as someone who wears many hats myself, so I have, you know, a foot in the special education world. You know, I have a foot in the multilingual education world. I have a hand in the early childhood education world. And I also do a lot around family engagement and DEI work. And I see over and over this pattern of silos, right? So like SPED has its kind of silo and its organizations. Bilingual, multilingual education has its organizations and the places that multilingual educators go to. Early childhood has, you know, its kind of, you know, space as well. But there are so many educators that overlap those spaces. And I think being able to network with those other organizations to see that we have students have intersectionalities too, right? So being able to partner with other organizations, I think would be really, really helpful.
how important your point is. It's so entirely hard when you think about silos and isolation. You know, like David said, you can't do this alone. And the whole notion of diversity and then, you know, diversity of in every imaginable way. Like you can't do the silo thing, you know. But how do we open up, you know, and yet we do need our specialties, Annalisa, you know, as much as we lament the idea of silo, we also need people who really understand a particular phenomenon. But then how do you branch out beyond that silo? You think it should be easy in this day and time, and I think it is easier than long ago, possibly. But other comments on that, on what Annalisa was sharing? I know there's so many experts in this on this call here.
Yeah, I had a different idea, not to follow up on what she had, but at ICEC several times we have done during a luncheon, we have simply had tables with topics on them. So that maybe one is autism, maybe one is transition, maybe, you know, whatever. And then people can choose that table to sit at during lunch. And maybe there's not a speaker, but there's an opportunity for you to talk to people who have the same interest and, you know, get their emails and make contact with them and so forth if you have something to share.
Yeah, that was on the Thursdays, Martha. Like, do come and join us for the.
Well, we've done it on different days over the years. Even before you got involved, Paula, we've done it, but we've done it different ways. But that just, you know, to keep that idea in mind.
Conversations over lunch, at least is what Martha is talking about. But yes, indeed, there's so many creative ideas for us.
I wanted to say something actually to that. Martha, you said that they did that based on different topics and things of that nature. What were some of the examples of the labels on the tables?
I'm trying to remember. You remember, David?
Martha, like collaboration might be, even transition planning, like evaluation.
You can almost take any topic related to special ed and or even age group levels or something like that too. You know, like maybe you get all the primary teachers together or the deaf ed teachers or whatever.
I was just thinking about that because of the fact that this year is my first full year being a principal. I went from being director of special ed to principal, and it just seemed like a really good idea for even professional development, something to try. So that was a really cool idea. Thanks, Martha.
And one thing that we had tried to do too was to have a person as a facilitator at the table, just to make sure that they talked about the topic and didn't get way off subject, you know.
Got it. Thank you so much. I love that.
Yeah. Other thoughts, other insights, other things you'd like to share? Any dilemmas? Throw out something that's obviously Jane talked about the website and that being as informative as possible, the use of social media. Getting to know one another and sharing information, that's the foundation of CEC, the Council for Exceptional Children. Way back in 1922, when it was formed, there were two objectives. One of them was that we get to know each other, and the other one is share information. That's Elizabeth Farrell's dream for this organization. And really, that's what it's all about, you know?
And you know, the great thing in today's age, like Martha's talking about the lunches and stuff, we can organize lunches like that if someone needed help. You know, ICEC is available. So, you know, like Emily's talking about being a principal, and I know you've been a director of special ed, but if there's an issue or a concern, you can have a virtual lunch. We can line up ICEC members, okay? And lots of people would be willing and happy to do that. The state of Illinois State Board of Education puts out monthly emails of tons of free professional development as well. I don't know if people know that. You have to sign up on the ISB website, and if you have trouble doing that, I'll help you do that. But, you know, they have with organizations all over the state that will offer you free professional development weekly. Okay. But ICEC, if someone has a question and they want to get in contact, is that something else we could help? And like I point this out in the national CEC, me and other people do this already. If people have questions, and we can find just about any expert between CEC and ICEC. And so I always know I've got everyone behind me if I need help.
And the Illinois Council for Children with Behavioral Disorders sponsors every third Sunday of the month at 5:00 p.m. a Solutions Sunday, which any educator who is having a behavior problem with a student, they can come and join us. It's all kept confidential. And they can get solutions to some problems to help them in the classroom.
Mhm. But Beverly, as much as there's so much out there, there's so much information out there, you have to be a member. You have to, how do you ever manage to access that information? Like, unless you're a member of Illinois Council for Children, first of all, a member of the CEC, CCBD, or these days Division for Emotional Behavioral Health, but and then have receive email and respond to email. Like, you have to kind of make the effort. It doesn't happen without work, without just really paying attention. And so the transition, Jane, one has to be a member of the Division for Transition.
Right, I'm a member of all of those. I can say, when I was a young teacher, I couldn't afford the memberships. In retirement, the price is drastically cheaper. And I also didn't understand the value of it until my current role now, where I am going out to schools throughout my region, and I am expected to be. I'm the person doing the groundwork for them. They don't have the time, they don't have the manpower, but even in my current job, I pay for those memberships now, and I value them. I truly didn't understand how important they were until now. But I'm in a situation where I'm able to keep helping others. Getting that message out can be a little difficult because the cost of these memberships.
I can make a couple of plugs here first.
Okay.
So we point this out, and anytime I talk to people, I'm spreading the message of ICEC and CEC. So student teachers can join for free this semester, the student teaching. And there's at least 3 great benefits. There's many, but 3 great benefits. So push this out to everyone. They do offer insurance for if there's a problem with practices. So secondly, they do have a significant library of professional resources, such as high leverage practices and other parts. And then the last part is just what Bev Johns was saying. There's all these umbrella organizations that are out there to help you. But you got to know about it. You got to be able to find it. I have people in my district, they don't know about it. They don't know about CEC. They don't have the money, but even if they did have the money, they might not do it anyway because they don't know about the professional protection liability.
Yeah.
The great library of resources at CEC, and then this third part, whether it's the community discussion board, whether it's helping you get in touch with who you need to, whether it's subdivisions like Bev Johns talks about, that you can do that. And and we think about, like, 25 years ago when I was new, I would love to have been able to say, Bev, I can come talk to you on a Sunday and a group of other teachers, and you're all going to help me out with this problem. And to give you an example, I seen a kid with Asperger's. I knew a little bit about Asperger's, nothing online. Oh, we'll help you get through it. Of course, Asperger's isn't even the name anymore. But so we need to make sure that we're looking into all 3 of those resources: the liability, the professional library, and then the networking that's built in. Bev, do you want to add something, ma'am?
No, but I will say that we have a pretty broad outreach for our BD, and we would never turn somebody away if they couldn't afford membership. We open our programs up to everybody. Actually, Illinois CCBD, Illinois CEC, the Learning Disabilities Association of Illinois, and Delta Kappa Gamma Society of Illinois all work together and all share programs. So that, for instance, this week, this is one of about 8 Zoom workshops that is going on that people can avail themselves of.
Yeah. The only thing, Bev, is like I find when people say to me, you know, like and they're not members of you see, they're not receiving the communications if they're not a member of something, you know, if their email address is not in the communications line, then they won't know about the convention, they won't know about this event, you know, so you know, somehow they need to network. In order to network, you have to, you know, have your email address in the mix, I guess, you know.
Right, they would have to, yeah, and that's a good point, Paula. They have to share their email address with us so we can send them information. For instance, CEC Chapter 99 has in Jacksonville has a program coming up next Tuesday from 4:30 to 6:30. Educators get PD credits. Anybody that wants to be on our mailing list, all they got to do is drop us an email. We'll put them on. We never limit to just members.
It's
we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. And since David was talking about networking, it really is critical that we all network with each other and reach out if we want to know about all of the services that are available.
So that's really good information to know, that you don't have to be a member to receive that information.
Okay.
And I assume you share that out with special ed directors and throughout the state?
Yes, actually, the notices about, you know, Chapter 99 go out to well over 1,000 people.
Okay.
And Delta Kappa Gamma also maintains a weekly what's happening with every single workshop that's going on in the state of Illinois, and it is not limited to members.
Good to know.
so now,
And you know, if you sign up with the Illinois State Board of Education Special Education, they do have where you can opt in and find usually 10 to 20 free trainings a year offered by people, organizations all over the state of Illinois, going on every week. I mean, there's and they're all free to everyone. And you know, this goes back to what Paul, but you have to know what's out there, and I know a lot of people don't know what's out there. So another great resource, and then that also puts you in contact with many people that are leading these programs around the state of Illinois.
Well, thank you very much. As much as we know how critical networking is, it also can be, as far as I'm concerned, rather, it can click and be very easy, but then it can be really, really difficult too. Like if there's an incorrect letter and an email address, you know, you think you've sent an email, but it didn't arrive. And then when it does arrive, it can get in the wrong email, you know, in the wrong inbox kind of thing, you know, like the focused one versus the, you know, so there's, to me, communication, as much as there are so many ways to make it be possible, it's also full of humanness and human error and all of that, you know. So the best thing to do really is just, you know, like David said, just keep asking questions and join. Thank you so much to all of you who are here tonight, because I think that's certainly steps in the right direction. And with that, are there any closing comments? Because it's 7:59 and I'm delighted you're here.
I want to apologize if I offended anyone on my website.
Well, do you know, Jane, I would welcome your
Okay.
Yeah, we have so many talented people in the community of special educators, and I'd love to have you come and join us. As a member of ICEC, I would love to do a little Zoom thing with Karen Dudek. Right there is an expert in communication. She's and she lives in our community here, Jane, by the way. I don't know if you know Karen or not. She lives right here in Bloomington. So
Karen, have we met? No.
I think we might have. You look familiar.
Were
but-
you on the committee at Central Catholic? No?
No,
Okay.
I live
Casual
right over
episode.
there though.
Okay.
I'm sure
Yeah.
I've seen you at something.
well, Zoom makes so many things happen
Yeah.
these days, Jane. You know, the woman who does the website would love to meet you, and I could see.
No. I was just saying me.
Yeah.
I say some things and I'd be like, let me take that back. Let me dive a little
Oh,
deeper.
No, Jane,
that's
you know,
fine.
I think everybody is struggling. All
Yeah.
organizations that I know are struggling with websites and how to make the websites very relevant
Yeah.
for people, because they have to be updated continually and they have to be user friendly for
Yes.
people, and the list goes on. So no, it's you know, I think that's just something everybody's wrestling with.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
with
no, absolutely. No, great question, because websites development, it's a whole nother job.
Mhm.
it is indeed. And David, you must get the last word here tonight.
Okay, here's my last word. In this day, we can actually become an Insta expert. We can go read on Google Scholar. There's tons of free articles, books. We can find out what scholars have said. But innovation often does not happen because you have to implement it, and then you have resistance, because can it work? Is it plausible? And is it effective? And that's where you can go outside yourself and you can talk to so many people that are willing to help you. And email the CEC, you contact me, you contact many other people in ICEC, such as Paula, Bev, Martha's here, Karen. We'll get you in contact. And I've sent my email out here. I work for people all the time that have questions. So call me if you can't find your answer. I will get you an answer. Thank you.
I thank you all for being here, and I'd love to see you again at our next one on mid-February. So I wish you a beautiful year, the rest of the year, as we zoom on into halfway through January already, and February, March, April will fly away, as we know so well. So good night to you all, and thank you so much for being here.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.